Have you ever noticed that most people think their financial life will change because of one dramatic moment? A huge raise. A lucky break. A side hustle that suddenly takes off. Some perfect investment at the perfect time. But for most people, that's not what changes everything. What really changes your financial future is something much less exciting at first. It's the small things you repeat. The tiny decisions nobody sees. The patterns that seem insignificant today, but over time become your entire financial reality. Because money problems usually do not come from one giant mistake. They come from hundreds of little moments of unconscious behavior. A swipe here. A subscription there. A purchase you justify because you had a long day. A week of ignoring your account because you do not want to look. A month of telling yourself you will get serious next time. And then one day you look up and wonder why money still feels stressful, even though you're trying. If that sounds familiar, you are not broken. You are not lazy. And you are definitely not the only one. The truth is, most people were never taught how to manage money in a way that actually fits real life. They were told to save more without being shown how. They were told to budget better without being given a system they could actually stick to. They were told to be responsible without understanding how emotional, automatic, and psychological money really is. That is why this video is not about getting rich fast. It is about rebuilding your relationship with money through tiny daily resets. Not extreme sacrifice. Not complicated spreadsheets. Not pretending you have everything figured out. Just simple actions that make you more aware, more intentional, and more in control. And if you stay with me until the end, I'm going to share the one mindset shift that quietly separates people who stay trapped financially from people who slowly build real freedom. Let's get into it. Reset 1. End the day with a 60-second money check-in. Most people do not know where their money goes in real time. They only feel the damage later. At the end of the week, they feel tight. At the end of the month, they feel frustrated. But in the moment, spending feels small enough to ignore. That is why your first reset is simple. At the end of each day, ask yourself one question: what did I spend money on today? That's it. You do not need a full spreadsheet. You do not need a budgeting app with 10 categories. You do not need to become an accountant overnight. You just need to stop letting your money life stay invisible. Because invisible behavior is almost impossible to change. When you pause and review the day, even for 1 minute, you start noticing patterns. You notice how often convenience costs you. You notice how often boredom leads to spending. You notice how often small purchases add up faster than expected. And once you can see the pattern, you can interrupt it. That is where control begins. Not with perfection. With awareness. Reset 2. Learn one financial concept at a time. A lot of people avoid money because money language makes them feel stupid. Terms like compound interest, cash flow, inflation, index fund, debt-to-income ratio, net worth. They hear these words and feel like finance is for other people. People who grew up around money. People who went to business school. People who already know what they're doing. But confidence with money does not come from being born into it. It comes from understanding the language little by little. So here is the reset. Learn one money term a day. Just one. Look it up. Read a simple explanation. Make sure you understand it well enough to explain it in plain English. That small habit matters more than it seems. Because every time you understand one more concept, money becomes less intimidating. And when money becomes less intimidating, you stop avoiding decisions. You stop freezing. You stop handing control to other people. You stop feeling powerless every time the conversation turns financial. Knowledge does not instantly make you wealthy, but it does make you less vulnerable. And that is a powerful place to start. Reset 3. Save before life gets a chance to spend it. One of the biggest financial lies people live by is this: I'll save whatever is left over. But for most people, there is never much left over. Because money gets claimed quickly. Bills take their part. Impulse spending takes its part. Daily habits take their part. Unexpected expenses take their part. And by the time the month is over, saving feels impossible. So flip the order. Instead of trying to save what remains, save something first. Even if it is a tiny amount. $5. $10. 1% of your paycheck. The number is not the point at first. The point is to prove to yourself that your future deserves a place in your budget before everything else eats it alive. That small act sends a message to your brain. I am not just surviving today. I am building for tomorrow. And over time, that identity matters. Because people who consistently save, even small amounts, stop seeing themselves as people who can't afford to save. They begin seeing themselves as people who protect their future. That shift is bigger than it sounds. Reset 4. Put a pause between emotion and spending. A lot of financial damage happens in emotional moments. Not because people are careless. Because spending often feels like relief. You buy something after a stressful day. You order food because you feel drained. You click checkout because the sale feels urgent. You tell yourself you deserve it because life has been hard. And maybe sometimes that is true. But if every emotion gets turned into a transaction, your money never gets room to breathe. So here is the reset. For any non-essential purchase, wait 24 hours. Put it in your cart. Take a screenshot. Write it down. Then walk away. That pause is powerful because it gives your thinking brain time to catch up to your feeling brain. A lot of purchases only feel urgent because the emotion is loud in that moment. But once the emotion fades, clarity returns. Sometimes you will still buy the thing. That is fine. This habit is not about depriving yourself of joy. It is about making sure your money decisions belong to you, not to your impulses. Reset 5. Stop avoiding your bank account. Many people have a complicated emotional relationship with checking their account. Sometimes it brings anxiety. Sometimes guilt. Sometimes shame. Sometimes that sinking feeling of, I already know it's bad, so they avoid looking. But avoidance is expensive. Because when you are disconnected from your numbers, you cannot respond early. You only react after the situation becomes painful. So your next reset is this. Look at your bank account every day. Not to criticize yourself. Not to panic. Not to spiral. Just to stay connected. Think of it like checking the weather. You are not emotionally offended by the weather. You simply look at the conditions and adjust your plans. Money works the same way. The more calmly and consistently you look at it, the less power it has to scare you. And over time, your account stops feeling like a source of fear and starts feeling like information. That is an important shift. Because financially grounded people are not always calm because they have more money. Sometimes they are calm because they are no longer hiding from reality. Reset 6. Change your environment, not just your intentions. A lot of people say they want to be better with money, but they spend every day surrounded by content, messages, and influences that push them in the opposite direction. Buy this. Upgrade that. Treat yourself. You need more. You deserve more. Don't think, just consume. Your environment affects your money more than you think. So one of the smartest resets you can make is to clean up your financial environment. Unfollow accounts that trigger comparison spending. Remove shopping apps you open out of boredom. Subscribe to voices that teach budgeting, investing, debt payoff, and intentional living. You do not need to turn your life into a finance seminar. But replacing even 10 minutes of random content with 10 minutes of useful money education can reshape how you think over time. What you watch influences what you normalize. What you normalize influences what you repeat. And what you repeat becomes your future. So be careful what is constantly training your mind. Because your feed is not neutral. It is teaching you something every day. Reset 7. Give your money a weekly review. Daily awareness is powerful. But once a week, you need to zoom out. Take 10 to 15 minutes and ask, where did my money go this week? What purchases actually improved my life? What spending came from stress, boredom, or convenience? What do I want to do differently next week? This is not about punishing yourself. It is about learning from yourself. That is a different energy. When you review your week with curiosity instead of shame, your money starts becoming feedback. You begin seeing which habits keep repeating. You notice the patterns that drain you. You start understanding the difference between spending that supports your life and spending that quietly sabotages it. And that awareness helps you make better choices next week without needing some massive reset every month. Small corrections, made consistently, are powerful. That is how people change direction financially. Not by becoming perfect. By becoming honest. Reset 8. Think like the future version of you. Most bad money decisions feel small in the moment. That is why they are so dangerous. They do not arrive looking catastrophic. They arrive looking harmless. It is just one extra expense. Just one skipped savings transfer. Just 1 month of not paying attention. Just one purchase you will figure out later. But your future is built out of just this once. So here is your final reset. Once a day, picture the version of you that is financially stronger. The version of you who has breathing room. The version of you who is not constantly stressed by bills. The version of you who has savings, confidence, and options. Then ask one question. What would that version of me choose right now? That question is simple, but it changes things. Because it pulls you out of short-term emotion and into long-term identity. And identity drives behavior far more than motivation ever will. When you start acting like someone who protects their future, you slowly become that person. Not instantly. Not perfectly. But steadily. And that is what really changes your life. Closing message here is the truth most people never hear clearly enough. Money habits are not really just about money. They are about self-respect. They are about self-leadership. They are about proving to yourself, again and again, that your future matters. That is why tiny habits matter so much. Because every small action is a vote for the kind of life you are building. Every time you check your spending, you are choosing awareness. Every time you save first, you are choosing stability. Every time you pause before impulse spending, you are choosing control. Every time you learn something new about money, you are choosing growth. And none of those choices look dramatic in the moment. But repeated long enough, they become transformation. So here is the question I want to leave you with. If you keep handling money the same way you do today for the next 5 years, where will that lead you? Be honest with yourself. Because that answer tells you whether your current habits are building the life you want, or quietly stealing it. The good news is you do not need to fix everything today. You only need to choose one reset and start there. One habit. One change. One decision that your future self will thank you for. And once that becomes normal, add another. That is how real financial change happens. Slowly. Quietly. But powerfully. If this message connected with you, comment below with the one money reset you're committing to first. And if you want more content that makes money feel simpler, clearer, and more actionable, subscribe and stay close. Because your financial future is not built in one giant moment. It is built in the small choices you repeat when nobody is watching.